We lost? We lost at the buzzer. Oh, no. The Nets lose another game. We're back on the podcast to talk about another loss. But we don't care. Yes, we're arrogant Nets fans. Still our world, Nets world. The Nets beat the Hornets. We'll talk about that game. The Nets lose to the Heat. The Nets pick up Mike James? Who is that, Hudson? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Nets' health. We'll play your voicemails. We'll read a review, and then we're out of here talking Nets. You already know we in the studio. Episode 96. Let's get it. Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talkin Nets, episode 96. 96. My brother graduated in 1996. That was a year, boy. I was a little young. I think I was 10. Man, Hudson, where were you at in 96?
That would have made me, what, -5?
Damn, my man was -5.
Every time we come on this show, we find a way to bring it back to my episode. You could have got 96 Bulls on the 1-year anniversary of The Last Dance premiering.
This is not a Bulls podcast.
That would have been a better one, though. I remember last year during the pandemic, no basketball to talk about. That's what we were talking about. We were talking about what do you think about The Last Dance?
Yeah, the Nets got beat in The Last Dance. I was rooting for them to win, but I knew they were going to lose. Either way, enough with the Nets losing, man. We lost to the Sixers, and we did the pod. We lost to the Heat, and we're back on the pod. But I'm not really worried about these losses, man. Honestly, a buzzer beater by Bam Margera, okay. That's what Bam was going to do. Anybody that was watching that game knew he was going to get the ball, shoot the last shot. He had a good chance at making it. If he missed it, we were going to go OT. I didn't want to go OT in American Airlines Arena. Y'all know how the Heat play down there. They're very good down there, Hudson. I mean, did that ruin your Sunday at all? How are you feeling after that game?
Look, I'm glad that we got it out of the way. We got the loss out of the way. We could enjoy the rest of our Sunday. It was an early game. I had dinner after. It was great. But, look, it happens. Bam's going to be Bam. That's like what he does. He hits those shots. Don't love that the Nets let up that 8-0 run at the end of the game. But, look, it's one loss in the regular season. What was that, game 57 of 72? Okay, on to the next. It wasn't game 7 of the finals. It wasn't the Eastern Conference Finals. It wasn't even the playoffs at all. Happens. It's a loss. We move forward.
We'll come right back to that. But first, your Brooklyn Nets are 38-19, second place in the East. And if the playoffs were today or yesterday, if the playoffs started as it currently is constructed, we would have played the Miami Heat. Would you look at that? The 7th seed. But there's some play-in stuff, and we ain't even worried about the play-in and how that'll all go down. We'll, I'm sure, talk about that on some later episodes. But we got to start off first with news and narratives. Let's get into it, man. Really not that many narratives besides, oh, the Nets can't stay healthy. That's why this episode is Hornets, Heat, Health. Because we keep hearing the narrative of all the haters. We should have put it Hornets, Heat, Health, haters. Because the haters just want to say the Nets should win it if they can stay healthy. They haven't even got all 3 of the big 3 on the court together healthy. Is that the only thing stopping the Nets? That's what we're coming down? Because they've run out of narratives.
Look, no, I'm glad, though. I'm glad that they've moved past Kyrie's a cancer, Harden can't pass, KD can't win, he's a snake.
Ball.
I'm glad that they've moved past that.
Defense.
I'm glad they've moved past all the nonsense that Ben Simmons was spewing out of his mouth. They've moved to a new point. They got new narratives, and this is the last one. I can't think of another one that would come after this. It's injuries or nothing. The Nets are going to deal with injuries for the rest of the season. They can hold their hat on this one. But look, at the end of the day, injuries happen. We learn to deal with them. We got a big 3 for a reason. And Keith, it looks like we're getting closer to that big 3 coming back and playing all at the same time. But KD goes down, some scary hours on the court, not because they're all playing.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. They're talking about health and chemistry. I feel like we're in high school. I had health class and chemistry class in high school. The Nets are fine, and the NBA is shook, and these fans are shook, and honestly, I'm just out here like, tick-tock, just waiting on the time to pass so
we
can
got
get
15 games left in the regular season.
Just get us to the playoffs so we can do this for real. And we were scared for real. I was in Yankee Stadium, as you guys all know, Sunday, and I look at Twitter and I see that post on Talkin Nets with KD limping off, and I'm scared. I'm like, oh shit, here we go, man. The one thing, the health that could derail this. You pray for health. KD gets hurt. Nets fans get scared, and they start thinking, man, what are we going to do if this is something worse than a thigh contusion? Hudson was live on the tweets. What were you thinking when you saw KD? Because watching the game, he stayed in the game for a couple minutes. He shot 2 free throws. He missed 2 free throws, and most people know something is up. If he's missing 2 free throws, he had to be in pain.
KD's not missing back-to-back free throws, especially when he came out shooting the way he did. I mean, he hit those first 2 threes, and it was too easy for him. You saw that KD when he just like, okay, I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to control this game, and no one can stop me. No one on the planet can get in my way. And that's what he did. But then he missed those 2 free throws. You see him limping a little bit. Looks like he took some knee to knee action, knee to the thigh action, got a thigh contusion. At the end of the day, it looks like he was just in pain, just a stinger. He's going to miss the next game that the Nets play against the Pelicans. You're probably listening to this on Tuesday morning. Nets play the Pelicans that night. No KD, no James Harden. But it looks like he avoided anything major and should probably be coming back soon. But look, 15 games left in the regular season. Let's take that time to get healthy. Let's take that time to get happy. And let's take that time to fill the rest of the roster because the Nets are still out here making moves, Keith.
Yeah, and there are some open roster spots. Let's talk about this guy, Mike James. LeBron James? No, Mike James. A guy that can handle the rock. And I'm not that familiar with him. I'm not going to hold you. When I saw the signing, I had to look him up a little bit. And he's a former Pelican, former Sun. And this is just Sean Marks, the Nets, looking at this roster and saying, okay, Tyler Johnson's out. Chris Chioza's out, broke his hand. And we need some ball handlers. We need some guys to come in. We need a guy to come in here and run point guard maybe for, I don't know. We'll see if this guy even materializes and turns to anything. What are you thinking about the signing of Mike James?
I mean, really, who knows? You can look at the stats that he was putting up in the Euro League playing for CSKA Moscow. Those don't really mean anything. Like, if you have Jimmer Fredette dropping 80 in China, it's kind of hard to take any of those international stats seriously. BYU's finest. But look, who knows? Maybe he'll pan out. Maybe he won't. At the end of the day, his ceiling is being a good Chris Chioza replacement, him out for the season. And if he can do that, that's fine. He can hit a couple threes. He can ball handle. He can finish around the rim. Good stuff. It's fine. It's a good signing. Maybe he pans out. Maybe he doesn't. He's not going to make or break the Nets season. But having depth is better than not having depth. So at the end of the day, it's what the Nets did. It's what Sean Marks liked. And if Sean Marks likes it, so do I.
It's a body to replace young Cheese, Lil Cheese. But do you think we need another big? Should we go get another center? Is there even a center out there? Like, I think that was the first thing I said. Is there a center out there that's worth putting with this team? Or why don't we just focus on DeAndre Jordan, Nicholas Claxton, Jeff Green, Blake Griffin, the bigs we have, and figuring it out with them? Is there a center out there that we need to – do we need to go get Kenneth Faried?
No one's exciting me on this market, to be completely honest. There's no name out there. We're past that. We're past the buyout market. We're past talking about Andre Drummond. We're past all that. There's really no one left for the Nets to get. But it's going to show sometimes in certain games when the Nets are dealing with injuries that, okay, maybe they might need just a warm body that they can put in there because we're going to do this Pelicans game and we're going to be missing Nick Claxton and Reggie Perry, 2 of our big men, and we're going to be running out against Zion and Steven Adams with what looks like, because Blake Griffin doesn't play back-to-backs, Jeff Green and DeAndre Jordan. So it's going to be an interesting situation. We'll see what happens. At the end of the day, these aren't problems we're going to be running into in the playoffs, so I'm not too concerned. But we'll see what happens.
You speak on Nick Claxton and Reggie Perry. What were they doing? They were in the 305.
In Miami.
Oh, bienvenido a Miami. Party in the city where the heat is on. Oh, no, it's COVID out there. And you saw them viral videos. They're wilding in South Beach. You think the young boys, what are they, 19 and 20 years old? They couldn't even get into the bars. They're your age. What do you think they were doing out there? Maybe they just had some chicks. Maybe they just had some some girls or something. But they're going to be out with this COVID tracing.
Who knows what's happening, but shoot, they got to get vaccinated. I know both of them can. They got to get vaccinated. I don't know. Part of me feels like maybe they went out with Harden. You saw him wearing the multicolor. He had the beachy vibes. He had all the bright colors.
He was going to the strip.
You know where he was going. And look, maybe he met up with some of his boys. There was news. Katie went on a Barstool podcast and talked about how the whole Nets locker room is rocking with Lil Baby. It's the hottest rapper in the game right now. That generated some controversy.
Full pockets. I rock with Lil Baby, and I was actually defending him as maybe the hottest rapper in the game. Not the best lyrical bar-for-bar rapper. Somebody actually threw out the name Freddie Gibbs to me, and I'm like, nah, I can't do that. You can't compare Freddie Gibbs when we're talking about the best rapper in the game or the hottest rapper in the game.
But that's Harden's boy, too.
I'm gonna have to step in here. Freddie Gibbs is a pretty phenomenal rapper.
But Freddie Gibbs been on the scene for 10 years. Lil Baby been on the scene for 3, maybe 4. It's not even a contest. I would never compare them.
It doesn't matter how long they've been.
He's a hit maker.
I would never compare them.
Freddie Gibbs is a beast, man. That's all I gotta say.
Freddie Gibbs is a beast lyrically. But what hit records does he have out? Name one hit record.
Is he friends
Freddie.
with James Harden? Is he that?
Scotty Beam?
Scotty Beam.
Stop.
Bro.
That record's hard, bro.
It's a hard record, but if your average kid is going to his Spotify, he's streaming 4 or 5 Lil Baby tracks. Whoa.
100%.
New car, baby,
but if we talk about the best rappers in the game,
but
Freddie Gibbs
is
not
the
hottest
rapper in the game.
Whoa.
Yeah. Look, all I'm thinking about right now is Joe Harris sitting in the Nets locker room, just bumping to some Lil Baby. That's the only thing that I want to think about for the rest of my life is Joe Harris, or is James Harden trying to explain how good Lil Baby is to Joe Harris.
Harden's got the studio. They said they got tracks with Lil Baby and Drake in the studio, and that's probably the only guy you put out there. It's like, okay, Lil Baby, Drake. I think that's pretty much all we've got from news and narratives. There's a bunch of things floating around in the Nets world about Harden, and I think on our last episode, we were walking into his reevaluation, and we saw him shooting. We saw him getting some shots up. We heard he's got to do these intense workouts, and he's got to, do 4-on-4 and 5-on-5, but he's on the way back, and he did travel with the team. So why would he get on the plane and go down south? We have Miami. We got to go to New Orleans, and then we got Tampa, the Tampa Raptors, and Harden is with the team. He could be training in New York. He could be training in Brooklyn, but he's with the team. So I think there might be a shot he tries to play in the Raptors game.
Look, unless he just wanted the free flight down to Miami.
Yeah, you're right. Just to get to the strip clubs. I know Harden, I understand. I get it, bro. Like, why stay in New York? It's still kind of cold up here. You could slide to Miami. It's a whole different vibe. Either way, let's move on here and talk about the 2 games. Game 56 of 72. Nets beat the Hornets in Brooklyn on last Friday, 130 to 115. It was a rainy day in New York. It was a sad day for the New York Yankees. And I'm driving in the Bronx. It's traffic on traffic because I don't know why, but they block off the whole stadium and make everybody just sit in traffic around the stadium. And I'm listening to the WFAN call of the Yankee game, and the Yankees go down 2 in the first. In the top of the first, they go down 2-0. And WFAN just changes the broadcast to the Nets broadcast. And I'm like, how convenient.
It's a cruel world. Yankees are bad, 15 games in, 5-10. Yankees are bad, Nets are good. I don't know what to say. But the Nets did look good in this game. But I don't know if you could take too many things away from it. At the end of the day, the Hornets came in down essentially their entire team. But we saw some good things. Joe Harris led the team, 26 points. He balled out. He had arguably his greatest three-point shooting performance on the season. Kevin Durant, we saw point forward Kevin Durant, 11 assists, 25 points in his usual efficient manner. But the trend continues, Keith, and this has been something we've been talking about since before this podcast even existed. The Nets give up career highs to young players on opposing teams.
It's what we do.
Miles Bridges, 33 points, had the Hornets announcers going crazy. And look, the Hornets stayed in this game for as long as they could, but at the end of the day, star power always wins out. KD, Kyrie, Joe Harris, Landry Shamet. And the Nets just balled out and got that win.
Yeah, I'll say this about the Hornets game. We can't stand on this win and beat our chest. They didn't have their guys. They didn't have a few guys. They didn't have Cody Zeller. They didn't have P.J. Washington. They didn't have Graham. They didn't have Gordon Hayward. They were out there without LaMelo Ball, who should be the Rookie of the Year. Okay, whatever. You still are supposed to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And we started that game off hella slow. Like, we were asleep in that game where I was, yes, at Yankee Stadium, but I was listening to the game, and I'm like, what are the Nets doing? What are the Nets doing? They're taking them lightly, and this team, they've had a little bit of a mentality change, a culture change. Like, they came in there trying to fight, and of course they couldn't outlast the Brooklyn Nets, but the Nets end up taking the series from the Hornets. They haven't beat us this year, and that's what it's supposed to be. You did mention Miles Bridges. He's fun to watch, man. His dunks, he can shoot the ball. He was shooting the ball against us. He's fun to watch, and, hey, you know, like I said, this is what we do. You give up career highs, Brooklyn, like, this is what you do. Miles Bridges knew he was going to come in there and eat. He didn't have to defer to anybody. He knew he was going to come in there and eat. Vernon Carey Jr., I want to mention, too. I'm a Duke fan, if some of y'all know that. Vernon Carey Jr. came into this game cooking. He started off, 5 for 5, I think I have in my notes, and he ended up with 21. Vernon Carey Jr. played at Duke last year in the weird 2020 year. Barely got to even do his thing. We didn't see him in March Madness. I'm happy he's getting an opportunity right there in North Carolina with the Hornets. Not too much more from this game because, like I said, you can't stand on this game and beat your chest over the numbers, the analytics, but got to give a shout-out to Smoking Joe Harris. You know what? Like, these boys are in trouble out here if Joe Harris is shooting like that, if Landry Shamet is shooting like that. You got to think about that one. That's what
we got shooters.
I'm looking for things like that in games like this. I'm like, okay, what guys raised their game? Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin raised his game in this game. It's like, if the role players can do that when we do get the big three on the floor, no contest.
It's so far over. Like,
no
it's
contest.
Not just over. It's like, it's so far gone, you can't even talk about it. But look, at the end of the day, not too much to stand out from that game. The Nets win. You can only play who's on your schedule, and that's what they did.
Last thing from that game. I enjoyed this so much. In the post-game press conference, Kevin Durant was asked if he's heard from Shannon Sharp. And he just simply says, next question.
I love that.
And I don't know who asked it, but the way that KD was so disgusted that he's in the post-game recap, and you're asking about Shannon Sharp, that was Friday. The Shannon Sharp stuff happened Monday night into Tuesday. One, media, y'all late. We been over that. KD was over that, and it's got nothing to do with basketball. Let's move on from the Hornets game. Like I said, we take the series from them. We handle business. We beat the teams we're supposed to beat. And let's move on to game 57 out of 72 against the Heatles down there in American Airlines Arena. I've been down there. I know what that energy is like. And you NBA fans, we've all watched from the big three that they had and the run that they had. And even last year, right? Before the bubble, the Heat, we know the Heat played well at home. They had one of the best records in the NBA at home. They have veterans on that team. Trevor Ariza's on that team. Andre Iguodala's on that team.
Bam is Dragic on that team.
Gordon Dragic.
They have a lot of old energy on that team. When you list out those names, they got a lot of old energy. And there was a weird energy because, I mean, we talked about it a little before, but KD dropping 8 points in really 2 minutes. I thought going into that game, oh, it's over. Oh, it's so far over. If KD is dropping that many points in that little amount of time, I mean, look, he was going for 40. He was going for 50. He was trying to shut up all the haters, talking about he's not going to be the same coming back from injury because that's still somehow a narrative. He goes down, a little bit of knee-on-knee contact. Everyone's heart drops. And that really kind of colored the game, I feel like, and it definitely impacted the Nets. I want to hear what you think about this, Keith. Do you think that KD going down early had kind of a mental impact on this team? Like it messed them up?
Of course it does. It always does. Because they don't know what's wrong with him. He's skinny as fuck. When he gets a thigh contusion, he just got a little bruise on his leg. But to the rest of the team, it's like, yo, like, this is the guy. How many games has KD missed already? 50? They said, like, I don't know. Between last year and this year, 50's not the number. But it's a lot of games that KD has missed. So then when you see him get hurt early in the game in the first quarter, I'm pretty sure I wrote in my notes, he got that little like bump in his leg at the 10:27 in the first. We get down to 10 minutes and 27 seconds, and KD gets a bruise to his leg, a thigh contusion. He stays on the floor. He misses his foul shots. But that was after he drained that three to start the game where everyone's like, yeah, he's going to cook.
He drained 2 threes.
And it's like, bro.
He should have had 10 points. He missed both those free throws after getting hurt. But who stepped up? None other than the greatest single-season turnaround player I've ever seen watching basketball. And I've watched a lot of basketball. Landry Shamet, 30 points.
Wow.
Doesn't miss. I have never seen a turnaround like this before. He's shooting better than 50% in the month of April. Since the Harden trade, since he got the new number, he gave up the 1-3, gave that to James Harden. He's been shooting almost 45% from 3, and it's just amazing. He's getting better month after month after month. And you clown me on the last podcast for saying some things about him, but man, Landry Shamet is a revelation. And if he can bring this energy in the playoffs with James Harden on the court, it's going to be ridiculous.
Just his energy?
His release, Keith.
No.
What?
You know what I like? Okay, you mentioned his jersey, 20. He wears 20 now. He's got 20/20 vision out there. He's a sharp shooter. And his confidence, his swag is there. He didn't have that. And I know we talked about how we cyberbullied him, and I didn't even realize he was 23 coming into New York. He had to figure out how to play in the big city.
He had to figure out how to live up here, too.
How to live in New York City, in Brooklyn, how to play with superstars, how to play for a fan base like the Nets fan base that is like, oh, no, why do we even trade for this guy after a couple games? And you know what? I said it already with Joe Harris, smoking the Hornets. If we get a Landry Shamet performance like that, this was his career high. He went for his career high, and I knew he was going for his career high. I looked that up when he had maybe 18. He went for his career high. If we're getting Landry Shamet to do this type of work coming off the bench in the playoffs.
In a game without James Harden as well, facilitating the way James Harden does, that's even more exciting to me because what he was doing was almost a little bit, in some cases, as a primary ball handler and coming off screens that were not set up by everyone keying in on a James Harden or on a Kyrie or on a KD. So that's really exciting for me because he did that on his own. So imagine what he's going to be able to do when he brings this energy, this way he's been shooting into the playoffs.
Sucks to lose a game where you get a career high from a guy like Landry Shamet, a guy that knew he had the green light. He had the green light. Kyrie wasn't really on. KD was off the floor. Somebody had to score. Somebody had to get buckets, and Landry was ready, man. What did he finish with, 30?
30 points, and he was just...
1 point higher than his career high. He got it. He went for it, and he got it. And when you look at the rest of the guys, Joe Harris had 12. Kyrie had 20. Everybody else was in single digits. Everybody else had, starters. Bruce Brown had 8. Durant, you can't really, Durant had 8 in 4 minutes.
Would have had 50, but whatever.
And that's why we can't really harp too much on this loss. What I'll say about this, and I said this in my post-game recap, which I said I'm not going to miss too many post-game recaps. I came out of Yankee Stadium. I went to the backyard, Juan's backyard. I watched the rest of the Heat game. I watched about the second quarter and the second half. And then I walked from the backyard to Yankee Stadium to do my post-game video. And I said, man, it sucks to lose a game like that with Landry Shamet. But I was feeling with other people around me that playoff energy, that playoff vibe. Like American Airlines Arena, they've had plenty playoff games. And that team, right, that is the defending Eastern Conference champion, they played very well down the stretch. And no, this isn't our team that we're going to be playing down the stretch with, but they played better than us. And when I talk about the veterans, I listed AI, Gordon, Trevor Ariza. Those guys know what to do in winning time, in crunch time. And in winning time and crunch time, we needed a closer. No Harden, no KD. We needed Kyrie to be the closer. And Kyrie couldn't do it. He was shooting some shots. He was forcing some shots. It might have looked like he wanted to play hero ball at sometimes, but I looked at it as, hey, you're the guy. Landry had a great game, but we can't expect Landry to close the game and win the game. What do you think about if those shots fall for Kyrie and we beat the Heat?
Well, first off, the narrative is completely different. It's Kyrie Irving. It is Kyrie Irving, arguably, in the playoffs at least, one of the greatest closers in NBA history. It does not matter if he's having a bad shooting performance. It does not matter if Landry Shamet is going for a career high. It does not matter if this isn't his game. It's Kyrie Irving. he takes those shots, and if he would have made those shots, it's game over.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's talking about this. At the end of the day, it's just another regular season game. He missed those shots. He missed those shots just like the Nets missed those shots in the Grizzlies game at the beginning of the year when Kyrie and KD both missed shots. No one's talking about that now, and no one's going to be talking about this game in 2 weeks when the Nets are going into the playoffs. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's Kyrie Irving, and I want him taking the final shot 100% of the time in 100% of all situations because he's Kyrie Irving, especially with the players that were on the floor with him at that time.
Oh, yeah, and he's going to make them when it comes again because he's going to think about the ones that he missed. He's going to come back with a vengeance. And here's a number for you, 31. 31 different starting lineups. Last episode, I said we were at 28, 29. These 2 games just put us at 31. In game 57 out of 72, you get to see the Nets' 31st different starting lineup. And I know there's some people worried about chemistry and how the team's going to gel. And, of course, I understand that. Like, when you get into the playoffs, the teams that have played together longer usually succeed and thrive in those pressure situations. I've been looking closely at the Clippers. I think they're going to be a better team than they were last year because they've had more time to work together and gel. This Nets team, I don't think that – I look at the Nets as like they don't necessarily need as much time to gel because of how much power they actually have. And I think the IQ and the skill level, when you get those guys on the court, it's just going to be dominant. It's going to be pick your poison. It's like, okay, if you can defend us, which I don't see any team matching up to defend us, like if you can defend us, who's going to outscore us? KD, Harden, Kyrie, and then these role players like TikTok, man. Just get me to the main stage. Just get us to the playoffs, no matter who we're playing against. You know, I'm listening to some Nets fans that are worried about the seeding and this, that, and the other. Hey, we might end up in a series with the Heat where we got to go to Miami and play some games, and we just lost down there. So I think this is just another loss that is going to help the Nets.
Chemistry not required for the players on the Nets. Kevin Durant can make his own shot 100% of the time. You saw him do it at the beginning of this Heat game. He can step into shots and hit them because he is 7 feet tall and is the greatest shooter of all time, the greatest scorer of all time. Kyrie Irving has the chemistry with James Harden, and it's James Harden, one of I'm just going to say it, the best passer in the NBA right now, and as much as people are going to say that that's a hot take, no, it's not. Look at the facts. I'm not worried. There's no reason for the Nets to be worried. We aren't the Clippers.
Are you worried about Bam? Did Bam scare you at all?
No, let Bam drop 60 on us.
He's good, though. Matter. He's good. You think he can beat us on his own?
No one can beat the Nets on their own.
What if he's got Jimmy Buckets with him?
What if? It really, to me, it does not matter. And if you're worried about chemistry, okay, let's sort that chemistry out in the last 15 games of the season. And even if we don't have that time to sort it out, which I think we will with the way everyone's trending unless something scary happens, let's sort it out in the first round of the playoffs. Let's sort it out in playoff basketball because at the end of the day, talent wins out. And regardless of who the Nets are playing in the first round, talent is going to come out on top. And the Nets have all the talent.
Last thing before we play some voicemails on that game. Sorry about it, Clax. You played 23 minutes. You gave us 4 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist.
Not his best game in a stretch of games that haven't been his best game.
Not his best game, but what I will say is this. Guys like Nick Claxton, guys like Alize Johnson, guys like Bruce Brown did get a taste of that playoff-type atmosphere. And that will bode well down the line in the future.
It's a new experience for them.
It's a definitely way new experience for them. Like coming out of the G League, coming from the Pistons, coming from University of Georgia. All right, let's get into the TN fam voicemails.
All right, so I love all the small ball vibes, but when we're playing a top 5 center like Bam, why we got Jeff Green in? What are we doing? All right, that's all I got to say.
First off, don't disrespect my Uncle Jeff.
That's a bad take, Keith.
It is, but we're not going to kill our own listeners. That's not a great take, bro. Why do we have Uncle Jeff in? Well, LaMarcus Aldridge retired last week. DeAndre Jordan versus Bam.
No contest.
Nobody wants that.
No, it's just not a good matchup.
You just heard me say Nick Claxton had a rough game, didn't give us enough. 4 points in 23 minutes. Don't want him getting exposed by Bam. You put the veteran Jeff Green on Bam, a guy that's been there, a guy that's seen it. And it comes down to a coin toss. Really, at the end, the game is tied up. That ball can rattle out, and then we go into overtime.
And no one's surprised if it does, right?
No one is
That
surprised.
was not a foregone conclusion. That was not anything. It was a tough shot, and Bam made it, no matter who's defending him. It just happens sometimes.
All right, next voicemail. From Connecticut?
It was up to Peyton from Connecticut, and all I gotta say is, you can't catch a fucking break, honestly. Like, I've been a Nets fan ever since I moved back to the States in 2012, and we can't ever have anything, bro. We can't have shit. We never get shit. We never will. And at this point, I don't even know what to fucking say. Right as we started heating up, Katie's looking nice. Bam, he's hurt. Jaden's Harden, MVP. Bam, hurt. It's like, I don't even know what to say anymore. Shamit, good game. Nah, you're still going to lose because we can't fucking close. I don't even know what to say anymore. It's just so depressing.
What is it, 2017? Jeez.
Damn.
Kind of weird energy.
That's that old Nets energy, Nets fan energy. Like, I feel you, but I've washed that all away. 2020, like, warped this world, and I don't have any of that old Nets, like, impending doom. We can't have nice things. Oh, what's going to happen to us, Nets?
No little brother complex.
What's going to happen to us next? We're still the Nets. No. Nets world, baby. Just live in it. Don't trip over that loss at the buzzer to the defending champs of the East that are in the 7th seed right now. That's old Nets fan energy. This new energy that we're in, that Talkin Nets was born in,
It's winning energy, Keith.
that this big three was born in, is all about winning. From the jump, we said we're playing for a championship. It starts up here first. You got to think it and believe it. And
Everybody does. Not just the
Everybody
players.
else will think it and believe it. And then as it starts to happen, everyone will know it. Yeah, the Nets are supposed to win it anyway. And that's what this playoff run is going to go like. Let's see. He called back. Hold on. What did he say?
I had to call back because I didn't give Landry Shamet enough credit either, man. What a great, fuck Sadiq Bey. I don't even care. Shamet's clean, dude. He was good on the Clippers. He had like a little run where he was hot. I knew he could reach that potential, and look at him now. He looks great. Shamet slander is no longer accepted. You're not allowed to slander him on Twitter. Only TLC, no one else. Go Shamet, man. How inspirational is that? Oh, my Lord.
I can't get over that TLC got brought into this. TLC didn't do anything wrong other than be TLC. I love that. But one thing that we didn't get to highlight in the podcast about Landry Shamet is what he said about Kyrie Irving being an influence on him. And I'm just going to read the quote verbatim. He said, quote, "Kai's been great. He's taken me under his wing, talks to me every day, believes in me, and that goes a long way, knowing your teammates believe in you. That means a lot. But Keith, isn't Kyrie Irving a locker room cancer?"
He doesn't care about his teammates. That's why he takes leaves and he just abandons the team. He doesn't care about those guys at all. Shamet is lying for him. I wonder how much Kyrie paid him to lie. That's crazy. Anyway, I saw that. I could tell just on the court. I could tell by the way, Kyrie will pat him on the back or how they'll kind of, I could tell that they had some rapport. And I tell y'all all the time, listen to the post game. And in the post game, Kyrie talks about them bonding and developing chemistry off the court, not on the court. He's talking about like them becoming friends and caring about one another because that will carry over onto the floor. That's all we got from voicemails. Once again, game 57 of 72, the Nets lose by a bucket, 109-107. Upcoming schedule, while we're on this trip, we got to play in New Orleans, the Pelicans, tomorrow or tonight, whenever you're listening to the podcast, 420, and 420. And then after that, we go to Tampa to play the Raptors. I think they play where the Tampa Bay Lightning play.
Amalie Arena, I believe it's called.
So we got a back-to-back. And we might see Harden.
Harden on the second half of the back-to-back. I mean, maybe he's using the Nets for a free ticket down to Miami.
You think KD takes this game off against the Pelicans?
Well, we know he's missing the Pelicans game.
He's definitely out for the Pelicans game. So then you think there's a chance that he comes back for the Raptors game with Harden?
I think that there is, but I also don't think it's up to Kevin.
You're right.
I don't think he makes that choice. I don't think he gets to make that call, which is unfortunate because I'd love to see him. But look, give him another day's rest, and let them come back and cook the Celtics, because the Celtics are talking heavy all of a sudden. We're playing them on Friday.
Hey, they're getting hot.
They're bringing a lot of that classic Celtics fan energy, and
They beat the Lakers.
Kyrie's always going to step up for that game, and you know that if KD's playing, he's going to score. So I would love to see the Scary Hours debut against that team from Boston.
Yeah, when we get back to Brooklyn, and Hudson and I will eventually get back to Brooklyn as far as being inside the Barclays Center. It's time, man. I'm tired of going to Yankee Stadium and losing, being in the stadium cold and mad, confused, watching fans throw shit on the field. I think it's time for me to go back to Brooklyn. All right, last thing, review. Somebody wrote us a nice review. Connor from Long Island writes, 5 stars. Fanalist. Keith and Hudson are the voice and reason of all of us diehard Nets fans. I watch all the podcasts on YouTube, and every single episode, the boys say exactly what I'm thinking as a Nets fan. I also appreciate that they're fanalists. Now, I got to stop for a second because I don't know if this is somebody's first time listening. I don't know if I've broken this down or not. Or I really just need to trademark this before somebody else starts using it. We're not analysts. We're not jumping on this podcast pretending to be former basketball players or coaches. We're not even pretending to be guys that know all the X's and O's. We are just fans. That's my Jason Kidd jersey from when I was a kid. That's a Brooklyn Nets banner that he bought as a fan to put in his dorm. We're not analysts. We're fanalists. So we're never going to get on this podcast and talk to you like we know more than you. We're actually meeting you at that surface level, talking Nets. So back to what our guy Connor wrote. He said, I also appreciate that they're fanalists instead of trying to talk on all the technicals of the game. Keith and Hudson are the real deal, and this is the best Nets podcast, capital letters, by far. Tune in. Our world, Nets world. Say that. Say that. Hey. Tony over there with the air horn. Appreciate you. Hey, let's wrap this thing up. You can call and leave a voicemail the same way. You can be heard. The number is 201-870-0461. Make it less than a minute. Leave your name. Also, write a review, and you can be heard, read on the podcast. We need the reviews. I'm telling you, it helps us look good out there. They can't count our downloads and views and followers, but when they go to Apple and they search Talkin Nets, all they have to go off of is how many ratings and reviews we have, and we haven't been around that long. We started in 2019. This is episode 96, so write us a review. It helps us out a lot. Make sure you follow us, though, on Twitter, first and foremost, on the road to 10K. Hudson, keep crushing that Twitter. Absolutely. Hey, I'm gonna help out more though. I've been in Yankee Stadium for a lot of these games,
to see there anymore,
and I'm done. I'm telling you, I'm about to scale that back. You'll see me in Brook, and make sure you follow us across platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube. The YouTube's going up. We are back in the studio for the second time so that the YouTube looks cleaner and looks better. Once again, subscribe, rate, review the pod. And yeah, I'm working on some games. If the Nets ticket office is listening, maybe we can get a little group deal, maybe 10 people, Talkin Nets fam, myself, Hudson, 8 other fans that want to come to the game. I'm actually eyeing some games in May because I am fully vaxxed now. Let's do it. And you already know what happens when you get us Brooklyn Nets fans together. We say, let's go Nets! Brooklyn!